are weaving the web. We are weaving the web. Weaving the web of life as we go. We are weaving the web. We are weaving the web. Weaving the web of life with our shuttles to and fro. Sisters, come weave the web. Sisters, come tie the web.
What's the first question?
How did being in the web affect your art and your life?
Well, I have no idea what my life would have been like without you. I mean, it was pretty dull before. I can't imagine my life without y'all. It's just beyond fathoming what could have happened.
I feel so lucky to have been a part of the web for all these years. It's really been an important part of my life. I've been influenced so much. It makes it really hard to think what to say. It's like, how do you talk about your family? It's such a big experience.
I can't imagine being here without you guys, you know, and us. There's a version of women together, that is a very negative concept, and I have not found it to be true. And the example is like the Cinderella myth, and that's just not an experience of women that I've had, and it's particularly untrue of the web. We have always supported one another. Everybody has low times, and when we have those low times, the rest of the web's there to lift someone up, and we celebrate one another's successes.
The web. When I think about the web, I think of so many things that are just so important to my life. Women, groups of women, the synergy, I use a buzzword, of groups of women, how we all support and enliven and bring things out of each other that maybe we didn't even know were there.
I came late to the party. There were friendships already formed, deep bonds between some of the women, and they had already performed in one piece and were being urged to create another piece. And I remember it was Ann Getty who asked Pat West and me to consider joining the group and creating a piece.
I was separated in the middle of a divorce, had moved out, and my kids and I were in an apartment. I met Ann and Diane, started hanging out around with them, and then I'm not sure how I met the members of the rest of the group, or if that group had even formed yet. I can't remember. Anyway, it was just one of those auspicious coincidences where what I wanted and needed probably just dropped into my lap at a time that made all the difference in the world.
I think half the web began maybe a decade before all six of us got together, and that was Diane and Mary and I started sharing one another's poetry and looking at our work. That first October, we'd moved in like in May, we had visitors. We had no water, we had no septic, nothing. And these friends from New Orleans, of all places, come up. The friend's wife was really good friends with Ann. So the first person I met was Ann.
You and I go back so far.
We're the longest relationship in
Yeah.
When? And that was on stage.
Yeah.
We met on stage. She was Helen of Troy, and I was the good angel in Dr. Faustus.
I was also Sloth.
You were what?
Sloth.
Oh, you were sloth. I forget that.
wait.
I forget that. Because you're anything but slothful.
It started for me when I met Diane. We were Peace Corps volunteers in our early 20s, far from home, and we bonded, and she was there when my first child was born, and we moved to Blacksburg because of our relationship with her and Richard.
I came with a whole repertoire of music, and others were creating pieces for this show that we called Web 6. There were 6 of us, and it was a web of friendships.
I was kind of swept into their rehearsals and their preparation and their development of this very eclectic and kind of brilliant joining of all these different art forms.
Diane brought us all together, kind of essentially created the mix that became the Web. In the beginning we were Web 6, even though there were always 7 of us, and but 6 on stage for our first show.
And there was a discussion at some point, I don't know where in the process, of what was Chris. I was always around I didn't do visual or any kind of that kind of art. And somebody said, she's our manager. In my mind, every time they said manager, I said groupie, cheerleader. So I think that I really was that, hanging around with the Web 6.
I've been working with the energies of this group and these women for more than half my life. The interactions have been such a huge, important influence. It's taken me places I would never have imagined for myself.
The things we did were all opening, because all the being on stage, I mean, like, I would have scared to death.
And I've had so much good feedback about our performances and what they meant to people, especially women.
We got really good. I thought our last one, with Bob's help, was a pretty powerful show.
People still talk to me about that
Yeah.
and ask me when we're going to do another.
Oh yeah, I get that too. And when are you going to do some more? Well, ask Elizabeth. So, what has changed the time that we first knew each other and women now? I mean,
I
I'm
know.
the news junkie and I listen to the BBC all night long and stuff, and women are really coming on to their own. I mean, there's really rough interviewer and it's just hosts of shows and things like that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Very
not the
different.
3 people in the weather lady, you know.
Yeah, right.
Remember we did. It was a weather lady, and
Yeah.
she had to wear high heels. So
And probably a girdle and hose.
oh God, no, I can't. I feel so incredibly lucky. I keep telling my daughter, like, hold on to your lady friends.
Having a community of people who are interested in that, who share what you're interested in, is only like strengthening your resolve.
So I like to think of our contribution to this old world as kind of being a seed that has helped grow this women's empowerment movement that's waving over the whole world right now, and I think is so necessary for the changes that we need to go forward. We've done our contribution, is how I feel.
It's a time of great power for women. That's pretty nice too. It's a fairly good time to be alive and be female.
And I grew up with brothers, and I think I really had some difficult relationships with girls, lots of feeling left out, not good enough, and competitions. So to be invited to be part of this group of women was a little intimidating for me.
I didn't really have girlfriends when I was growing up. My friends were boys, and they were happy to have me join in if I was doing what they were doing. And that meant play football, basketball, cowboys and Indians, buy your cap gun, get your holster. Yes, indeed I did. I got my cap gun just like everybody else had, but I didn't have 2 cap guns on each side. Many of them did, with a hat. I didn't have a hat either. So it was male energy, that young male energy, not mature male energy, that had a huge influence on me. So I always felt a little hampered about making connections with women, because I didn't have it as a child. But when I encountered the web, it was like you all just folded me right in, and it was as though I had known women all my life, and it was wonderful.
Ann and Susan and Pat were like the people I knew to ask questions about, like, what do you do when you have boys? And sure enough, I remember going to bed one night and getting the phone call from the sheriff in Floyd, come get your son. Yeah, but I was cool about it, and I'd slept that night.
When I think of the web, I think of water, I think of Mary's River, I think of Ann's River, I think of the beach.
Did you ever hear a song about water?
We were in our late 30s, early 40s, going to Mary's River with our kids.
Heavy with recriminations, they will sing, where's the water of my youth? It was beauty, and it was truth. It would tumble and trickle and sparkle and sprinkle upon the earth. Well, future folks, they're gonna call and ask their DJ.
We used to go to the swimming hole, go off the diving rock.
Except for Ann. Ann wouldn't jump off that rock.
Oh, she wouldn't?
No. It was great for me that everybody came out here. It was great for me, great for my kids.
I was probably the oldest in the group. I know my children, my grandchildren are now middle-aged. I can't believe it. So I did not have the experience of bonding with some of the members over small children.
Oh, the ocean was your first mother, and the rivers and the creeks, they were another. We all come from a soup primordial. And if you didn't have a mother, tell me, how would you feel? You must show the old woman that you care and help her put the shine back in her hair and help it to flow cleanly and oh so serenely upon the earth.
Ann got a place on the New River, and that was another place to gather, and still is. Ann's always been the one who focused on us being the web and calling us together as the web. I think that created something over these years that wouldn't have happened without that.
About the old man river. Oh, whoa.
Diane got us going to Pawleys Island as a group.
I've gone to Pawleys Island since I was a teenager, and I remember the summer Richard and I were looking at having a house right on the beach, which we often didn't have, and then we saw this great big old house, and we thought, I wonder if the web would come. And they did. And it just was magical. We were there with all our children, and I think we had 26 one year.
Come from a soup primordial. And if you didn't have a mother, tell me, how would you feel? You must show the old woman that you care and help her put the shine back in her hair and help it to flow cleanly and oh so serenely upon the earth. Oh, let's all sing a song about water.
And every summer for years, we would, most of us, spend a week at Pawleys Island together. And when we lived in California, we would fly from the West Coast to be with the web at the beach at Pawleys on the East Coast.
There, you're gonna find the truth. And certainly and surely the water will flow purely upon
my family, I think. And a lot of us don't have family here. You did, Susan. I didn't. Ann did. So we made family.
Several different times, friends paid my way to the beach. And without that interaction at the beach, I don't know that I would have had as close a connection, because it was fabulous. And I've been dreaming about it ever since. I wish we could do it again. Can we go to the beach again, please, Mommy?
These were all gifts that I was lucky enough to unwrap. And they're still there. And that is like, I know that anytime I need anything, all I have to do is, well, I would say call, but now it's probably beyond the computer.
All these things are things that are so important to my life and my existence. And I feel like when the web congealed, all this just became more and more real, more and more supportive of who I was. It provided me with a nest that I could feel nurtured, supported, understood, inspired, and then go out and actually have a product to take out into the world, which has always been hard for me, to step out into the world and show my art or whatever. So doing it in a group was so much easier for me.
Each woman in the web is very different. So as I've been influenced by each of them, it's helped me see myself.
There were a couple of years there where all three of us were writing. We were on fire, writing like crazy. And Mary won the Virginia Humanities Prize for Poetry. And I think, that came out of some sort of that fervor and that belief in our writing.
Diane and Ann and I have met over the years and try to be maybe more disciplined for Diane and I. Maybe me, but Ann doesn't need it. So she's the most disciplined. I wish I could say that it rubbed off on me, but I think I just laugh and I try to pretend that I'll be more disciplined, and I keep a notebook and I'll even file things.
When Diane started photographing us, it was like a transformation. We saw ourselves again.
I had all these gorgeous women to photograph and their families. So to what was my foremost art form then, photography, this just gave me so much to work with.
Diane, let's take some pictures out there. So next thing I know, I have no clothes on. It's cold, and I'm in the cornstalk.
How did being in the web affect my writing? And I would have to say it kept me going, probably during some low times. I got up at 4 every morning to write. Every now and then 4 was awfully early. But I would think, my friends believe in me. I have to get out of bed. I can't let them down.
Being part of the web certainly was energizing for the work I was doing. Diane really encouraged me to think of myself as an artist. And then I got so much encouragement from all the women in the web. It's been a very fertile environment.
Early in the days of the web, at one of our suppers, Pat said that she had this dream of going down the hill and leaving her kind of miserable life and building a house for herself and her children, out of the rocks from the river. And we said, do it, Pat, do it, go for it. And I think some of us helped carry some of those rocks. And Pat, who had no background in architecture or carpentry or plumbing or anything, Pat's house grew up. It grew up out of her dream, and I think in part out of our encouragement. And it was so essential to all of us to see that house that just came out of a dream.
My family moved to California when my husband's job took him out there, and I really resisted going because I didn't want to leave the web. I didn't want to be left out of all that energy.
In those early years, I was extremely poor. And I was a heavy smoker, and I didn't have hospitalization. And my friends in the web worried about me a lot. So they all chipped in together, and one year, maybe for my birthday, bought a physical for me. I used to say, gave me a physical, but that sounds kind of scary and creepy. They bought a physical for me out of their concern. And during those hard years, I also managed to buy a little house, and it had a little tiny, very depressing kitchen. And one Saturday, the web showed up, popcorn, Coca-Cola's, beer, music, and spent the whole day tearing down the wallpaper in that depressing little kitchen and painting the cupboards.
And the other thing I love is just that we're outrageous. We can be as outrageous and wildly creative and over the top and over the line as we want to with one another. And there's no judgment. So it was a place to kind of stir the cauldron of juice and creativity. And that meant a lot to me.
You were getting feedback in vivid kind of ways, but it was prompting your development kind of thing.
We are weaving the web. We are weaving.
I've really gotten to appreciate the quality of friendships that are offered and available by women.
I don't know how people do without that.
Weaving the web. Weaving the web.
You know, I remember sitting around my dining room table talking about menopause. I don't think a one of us had ever had, you know, our mothers didn't talk about it. There was very little information. And we sat around the table and shared our information and shared our experience. And this is something I know that we have passed on to our daughters, who will have their day of this too.
We are weaving the web. We are weaving the web. Weaving the web of life as we
The song that I wrote, Weaving the Web, that was specifically for this group, and I was very pleased with it. The Greeks have a spider god, Arachne, and she weaves the web of human life. So I thought, that's perfect for us. And that's what the song says, we're weaving the web. And I love the metaphors that came out of that for implying how we are as women, daughters, wives, mothers.
gathering the threads of life, the long and the short. We are weaving the web.
I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't met you guys, but it supported a transition into a whole new way of thinking about my life. So, you know, to the web I say, thank you very much.
With our shuttles to and fro, we are tying in the silk. We are threading in the gold, bringing forth a pattern.
And now, 40 years together, and we're in our 70s, Elizabeth's in her 80s, and we're looking at the twilight of our lives and discussing that among ourselves. What do we do with the time left for us? What do we do in this incredibly changing world? We're looking at this next stage that's coming after this tremendous change. And I can't imagine doing this without the web.
The web. We are weaving the web. Weaving the life with our shuttles to and fro. And Minerva
It was fun. It made my life feel engaged in a world other than my little hollow. Web was that string and that thread.
We had put something into our community and beyond that was bigger than any of us individually.
Rejoicing, winding in the skein, we are weaving the web. We are weaving the web.
We've continued to be together, a lot of it thanks to Anne, who has corralled us and kept us going for birthdays. It's been like a thread in my life, a thread running through my life that's meant just so much to me, so much to my life experience this time around. And I'll always be grateful for that.
As we go, we are weaving the web, weaving the web, weaving the web of life.
There are more of us now. Sometimes there are 10 of us. Looking back over this time, I realize that I've grown to have individual relationships and these long-time friendships that really are such a comfort and a help and a treasure. It just means so much at this tail end of life.
Could rejoice that love's alive today. Oh, love's alive today.
So much in love with all of you.
And love's alive today.